Batman has a strict no-kill rule. Even casual fans of The Dark Knight are usually aware of this trait of his. He has a strong moral code that he abides to, and while using force is something that he never shies away from, his intent is never to be lethal. So it may surprise some of you that despite all that, Bruce Wayne does have blood on his hands. So today we are counting down the top 10 times that Batman is killed. Many of these instances occurred in Batman's earlier days of his crime-fighting career, primarily during the Golden Age. Others are killings courtesy of alternate versions of the Caped Crusader, and other times can be chalked up to unfortunate accidents. So with that in mind, let's get to it. And at number 10, Let Them Burn. All-Star Batman and Robin depicts a much more hardened and brutal Bruce Wayne than the one that we know from DC's main continuity. This Batman, penned by Frank Miller, was the younger version of the Caped Crusader who appeared in Miller's iconic The Dark Knight Returns series, and it provides quite the explanation as to why people act the way they do around Bruce in that series and its sequel. It's because Batman is a total He verbally abuses Dick Grayson, he bullies Hal Jordan in a really petty way by trapping him in an entirely yellow room while he demoralizes him and Robin attacks him, and he also kills. Surprise, surprise there. He set a building on fire, trapped some criminals in there, and let them burn alive and die. All while he had a little makeout session on a roof nearby. Yeah, kinda makes him a if you do that. Up next, number 9, the Neck Snapper. Here's the first of several Golden Age instances in which the Dark Knight offs his foe. In the early days when he was a feature in Detective Comics, Batman would often kill his criminal enemies, or, at the bare minimum, commit manslaughter. Being a product largely inspired by pulp predecessors, there was less of a concern back then. At Bill Finger's suggestion though, Robin was added to his stories as a sidekick, his version of Watson, and it doubled the hero's sales. Because of this, there was a concern over depicting a vigilante as having a kid's sidekick. Now, editor Whitney Ellsworth would decide that moving forward, Batman could no longer kill, especially after Detective Comics 38 was released, in which Batman used a gun to murder. Fun stuff. In addition to that, after World War II, DC Comics adopted a post-war editorial direction that increasingly de-emphasized social commentary in favor of lighthearted juvenile fantasy. This meant that Batman's bleak and menacing nature was replaced with a more bright and colorful environment, and a push to make him more of a respectable citizen and a paternal figure. So what does all of that have to do with neck snapping? It's context, my friends. In Detective Comics issue 30, 3 issues after his debut, Batman had committed a few murders, including one in which he swings from the roof of a building and kicks a man hanging out of a window with a gun, snapping his neck with his long, model-esque legs. Seriously, look at those calves. Damn, he works out. There's a literal snap that appears in the panel, and based on the impact marks, it looks like this fellow will not be trying to shoot any more vigilantes anytime soon. I still can't get over the legs though. And at number 8, the ABATTOIR. Once upon a time, Batman had his back broken by Bane. While he was recovering, a protege named Jean-Paul Vallée took his place, dressing up as Batman to ensure that the criminal underworld would not run rampant with the knowledge that Batman was out for the count for the time being. When Batman chose Jean-Paul, a lot of his peers were skeptical and had their concerns. Vallée, aka Azrael, began going rogue and being more and more violent. Red flags started going up. But no red flag was bigger than that time he started murdering criminals. He upgraded the Batsuit to contain more lethal weaponry, and then he ended up killing the villain ABATTOIR, having left him hanging above a vat of liquefied metal that he would eventually drop into. And we got to see his demise on panel too. Pretty brutal. And at 7, Reverse Flash. Yet another alternate version of Batman coming in at this number. In the Flashpoint universe, we got to see a different man under the Batmantle, Thomas Wayne. According to this alternate universe, instead of Thomas and Martha being the ones gunned down in that alleyway, it was Bruce. This tragically affected his parents in different ways. Martha became insane and would go on to become that timeline's Joker. And Thomas Wayne would become Batman. His version of the Caped Crusader is much more violent. He uses guns and lethal force when necessary. Case in point, he stabbed the Reverse Flash, the story's prime antagonist, right through the chest with a sword, all to give Barry Allen enough power to access the Speed Force and return back home. And at number 6, Darkseid. Final Crisis was a crossover event that occurred between 2008 and 2009. And no, it was not the Final Crisis, which kind of makes it less impactful in retrospect. Regardless of this, it features Darkseid as the primary big bad, who had a scheme to overthrow reality. Batman, being the ever-prepared individual he is, came up with a way to defeat the supervillain, using a bullet made of radion, a substance that is toxic to new gods, and was also found fired back in time at a crime scene earlier on in the event. Now the two would have a bit of a standoff, with Batman firing this bullet and Darkseid using his Omega beams to try to kill Batman. While he managed to kill Bruce, his body was infected with the radion, meaning death was inevitable, allowing him to be easily defeated by the remainder of the Justice League. It was then later revealed that Batman had just been sent back in time instead of being killed off. And that's a whole other story for a whole other list and a whole other day, my friends. And at 5, KGBEAST. Whoa, that name. During the height of the Cold War, it wasn't uncommon to see anti-Soviet and anti-Russian themes in comic books. Such is the case with this story, Batman up against a foe called KGBEAST. Creative. First appearing in Batman issue 417 in 1988, he was a Soviet assassin on a mission to kill 10 high-ranking US officials. He poisoned over 100 people at a banquet just to ensure that one of his targets would die. Yeah, intense. Batman would eventually hunt him down and put a stop to his reign of terror in a very sadistic way. He locked him in a room, barricaded it, left no food or water, and then just left him there to die. Batman goes on to note that some circumstances are such that the rules pervert justice. I quote, "I'm not in this business to protect the rules, I serve justice." He says that while he's barricading the door. While we didn't see the villain's death on panel, it was assumed that he was definitely dead, because how the hell would anyone get out of that? But fret not, because DC did not let that fly forever. The character's inevitable demise was retconned slightly, with Batman noting in Batman Year 3 that he contacted the police to pick up KGBEAST. KGBEAST would be killed off anyway, and 1 year later thrown off of a building as a botched assassination attempt by Great White Shark. These days in DC Rebirth, he's known simply as the Beast. And at number 4, the Joker. Batman will always refuse to kill the Joker, yet the Joker will always find a way to continue his reign of chaos. It is a never-ending cycle that is highly toxic. But it is a cycle that we've seen broken in several different depictions. While some may argue that Batman killing the Joker and the Killing Joke should be higher on this list, that whole 3 Jokers thing, not interested. Whether or not Batman actually killed him is highly debatable. For starters, part of the Killing Joke has carried over in terms of what is canon with DC's seemingly endless number of continuity reboots. And second, the panels leave it rather ambiguous as to whether or not he is fully killed. But there have been other alternate universes in which Batman has killed the Joker. Batman of Earth -22 from the Dark Multiverse killed the Joker, resulting in devastating consequences. The Clown Prince of Crime's body released a toxin that transformed Bruce into an amalgamated version of Batman and the Joker, making him into the deadly Batman who laughs. You can also argue that Bruce is responsible for the Joker's death in The Dark Knight Returns, having reunited with his penultimate foe, who snaps his own neck in order to get the last laugh on Batman and have him take the blame for the crime. That's pretty savage. And at number 3, playing Hangman. Batman issue 1, which was released in 1940, a year after the hero's debut, marked a whole lot of firsts for the Caped Crusader. He was joined by Robin, he faced off against the Joker for the first time, and Catwoman made an early appearance as the sultry jewel thief known as the Cat. It was an important issue, but that issue also featured something else startling: Batman hanging a criminal. Yes, the story consisted of several mental patients being turned into giant monsters thanks to chemicals that were administered to them. Oh god, 1940. Ugh. These were the days before Batman could whip up miracle cures with his scientific expertise. Instead, he ended up using a much more violent method to solve this problem, which involved shooting up a truck that was transporting one of the patients. Then, when the patient tried to escape, Batman lassoed a rope around his neck and then attached it to the Batplane. The rope ended up being a noose around this patient's neck, strangling him as the Batplane took off. The patient struggled and then went limp, with Batman noting, I quote, "He's probably better off this way." Dude, not cool. And at number 2, stop stabbing yourself. In Detective Comics issue 37, yet another Golden Age moment, Batman punches a guy so hard that he impales himself. No joke. In a story titled The Screaming House, Bruce hears screams coming from an old house, so he decides to investigate. A group of thugs are beating up a fellow named Joey. When Batman intervenes, Joey surprises him and knocks him out. After Batman wakes up, he follows Joey's trail, which leads him to more criminals, who then kill Joey for leading Batman to them. Fun. Turns out these thugs are actually foreign spies, 1940, and planned on sabotaging a ship. Batman stops them in time, but the leader of the gang, a dude named Count Grut, opposes him, throwing his sword at Batman. Batman dodges it, dukes it out with him, and punches him so hard that Grut falls back and impales his head on his own sword, which is conveniently stuck in a closet door after he had thrown it at the Caped Crusader in the first place. Oh, what luck, Batman, what luck. Finally, in at number 1, his first murder. Aw, baby's first murder. And it happened in his debut too. Detective Comics issue 27 marks the iconic introduction of Bruce Wayne as Batman. Donning the first version of the character's costume, Bruce was a little more brutal with his crime-fighting tactics. He pushed a criminal into an acid vat in a story titled The Batman, The Case of the Chemical Syndicate. After learning from Commissioner Gordon that a chemical manufacturer named Lambert had been murdered, Bruce dons his Batman costume for the first time and pursues the culprits, leading him to a guy named Alfred Stryker. During an encounter between Stryker and Lambert's son, Stryker pulls out a knife on him with the intent of killing. So Batman swoops in, grabs him, there's some exposition, and then Stryker pulls a gun on the hero. Batman punches him so hard that he knocks him through a metal railing, and then he falls into a vat of acid below. And what does the Batman say in response to that? A fitting end for his kind. Oh my god, Bruce, chill. I mean, to be fair, this would later be categorized as Batman of Earth 2, the home of all Golden Age heroes, but still. That's a murder. Alright, there we have it, friends. Do you think Batman should pay for these murders? Or do you think they were all unavoidable accidents? I mean, guy backs up onto his own sword. Oopsie daisy. Give us a shout in those comments below and let us know your thoughts and feels. If you guys dug this video, you know what to do. Spread that love, hit that thumbs up button, and be sure to subscribe to Top 10 Nerd if you haven't already. We'd love it if you stuck around with us some more. In the meantime, thanks for watching, friends. I'll catch you all in the next video. I forgot to finish this number. Versions of the tape. I didn't say the title in this list. He left an entire building filled with criminals. How do I want to word this? Criminals in a buildings. Now there was concern depicting a village. Oh, me. What are words?